expression of Srila Gurudev speaking about how, this is spoken shortly after Srila Shuddha Maharaj leaving the world, and Srila Gurudev is speaking about how our connection with Srila Guru Maharaj is continuing in a spiritual way through service and through trying to follow his divine instructions. Okay, so we'll continue from there. I'm just going to quickly read. We spent the class, it's just like less than 2 pages. We spent like an hour talking about this. So I'll just quickly read it because it's so nice. This year, Srila Guru Maharaj is residing in his Samadhi Mandir, and we are trying to serve him through his instructions, through his guidance, and with his blessings. Although I do not speak English very well, still Krishna consciousness is moving heart to heart. Language is not as communicative as transcendental sounds. The Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and so many other mantras are revealed in the Vedas. We may not know their meaning, but by chanting them, the meaning is revealed. We are meditating on the mantras and we are receiving light from them. In this way, we can understand that only the devotional spirit can help us. And devotion is the highest and only real means for practicing Krishna consciousness or serving the Vaishnavas. If I see a man drowning in the river, should I go to learn the local language and then try to help? No, I will have to do what I can immediately. And our position is also equally desperate. We are drowning in the ocean of Maya. So whatever we now have, we will have to utilize that for our rescue from Maya. Guru and Vaishnava are coming from the transcendental world, from Chinmoy Dham, which is purely spiritual. And we are also essentially spiritual, so they can easily communicate with us, soul to soul. Soul-to-soul communication is the best method. And in this way, when we are reciting the mantra, when we are trying to follow their advice, in whatever way, they are helping us for our transcendental progress. The sadhus, the saints, are establishing mats only for the benefit of the conditioned souls. They are so kind that only to help us, they are arranging rooms, accommodation, and making so many arrangements, just so we may have a chance to serve the center, to help us progress easily towards our spiritual destination. In the association of other devotional souls, there will be no fear. In their company, we become fearless. Therefore, we should always be very enthusiastic to see the devotees and have their company. We have been following Srila Guru Maharaj for so long, and we were always happy in his presence. And even now we are happy because now his instructions are coming in a supramental way. In the presence of Guru Maharaj, he would directly give his instruction, and so it was very easy to know his direction. And now, if we find ourselves wanting for any direction, we are meditating on him, and the instruction is coming, and we are gladly doing some seva, some service. Union in separation is our supreme goal, and that is the Leela of Radha Krishna, and we can meditate on the pastimes of our Guru Maharaj in the same way, in the mood of separation. I am very happy if you can all stay for the Gaur Purnima festival. Actually, you may all stay as long as you like, and if the government will give you permission, then you may stay forever in this mat. There may have to be some mundane arrangements for visa, passport, etc., but we will always welcome you. This building and everything here, that is only for the devotees. Okay, so that's where we left off, and now we've come to this question or comment. Devotee, we want a visa for the transcendental world. Srila Govinda Maharaj, yes, the supreme authority is Gurudev, and he will give the visa to the transcendental world. He is the authority, of that there is no doubt. From the mundane to the other world, to Krishna's Dham, Gurudev is giving that visa. He is the Ashaya Vigraha, the Lord we accept as our shelter. We must try to chant and follow his instructions, and then no real problems will come into our lives. This is the way to make our fortune in life. First, we must be initiated into the supramental power of Harinam, the Maha Mantra. And here we find there is no limit to how many rounds we can chant. But the minimum must be 16 rounds. Guru Maharaj was so merciful. He said, if you are engaged busily with the service of Guru, Vaishnava, and Krishna, then that divine seva must be fulfilled. But the mala, japa beads, must not fast. Therefore, even in exceptional circumstances, you must chant 4 rounds minimum. Normally, 16 rounds only takes about 1.5 hours, so to chant 16 rounds is not so much. Srila Haridas Thakur would take 3 lakhs names every day, that is 192 rounds, and only after completing that would he take prasadam. When Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada was living at the Yoga Peeth Mandir in Mayapur, he would take 1,64 rounds every day. But as the service of the Lord and the Vaishnavas becomes more and more, then naturally the chanting will become less and less. Service is our life. We must always try to serve. I do not know who is Krishna, who is Bhagavan. I do not know what is what. But Guru and Vaishnav, they know, and they are always serving their Lord properly. With this mentality, we can help ourselves. I can help myself by always serving the Vaishnavas and my Gurudev. This is the proper channel. If somebody is giving some money to the mat, they may think that they are helping this mat, but actually they are helping their own self by their energy. Money comes through the exertion of energy. A man is trying to gain money, and in so many ways he may be giving his energy for the collection of money. And when that money is given to the mat, then that means that his energy is now coming to serve Guru and Vaishnav. When I was living as a brahmachari, Guru Maharaj would send me out to do collection. And no matter how hard I tried, I would not gain very much money. Still, Guru Maharaj would continue sending me. Go door to door and beg for something. If they give 1 rupee or 100 rupees, that does not matter, but you must go door to door. I was very hesitant, and every morning I would be very unhappy to go begging. And so every day Guru Maharaj would teach me, you are not going to beg for yourself, you are going for Guru Seva, for the service of your Guru. And when they give you something, they are not being kind to you, they are being kind to themselves. They are collecting money in so many ways. And if they give some of that to you, then their money will be used for Guru Vaishnava Seva. That money comes to Gurudev, and he is offering that to the Lord. And those that gave, they are gaining spiritual benefit. In this way, Guru Maharaj would preach to me. I was 16 or 17 years old, and it was very difficult for me. But Guru Maharaj was always pushing me, go for begging. And I got 2 types of benefit from that. Sometimes the people I met would ask me why I was not using my time for the mundane pursuits. Why had I left home? Why had I neglected my worldly duties? Why was I not with my mother and father? And so many other questions. I would have to give the answers to their questions, and in so doing, I would clarify myself with them. Then secondly, I am collecting some money for my Gurudev, and he is offering that to his Gurudev and Lord Krishna, and in this way I am gaining my spiritual benefit. Very nice. I got 2 types of benefit from that, from the collection. One, that people would ask him why you're doing this, and then so the need to clarify that within his own self. And then that he's taking their energy, and that is being offered for the service of Guru and Gauranga. And these things are always Lavanya Didi's meditation. It's funny that we have you here. Lavanya Didi, she knows these teachings very well.
If you when you're collecting and it it's not like type of flowing, then I always know I've lost the focus. Then I have to remind myself of that, and then it starts to flow properly. No, I'm getting something. You did this thing. No, it's from there to there like that. You just you collect it of that energy.
I remember Lavanya Didi, she commented once that, even if like we get some other source of income and there's no need to go out anymore, I will still go out. Because it's not actually to take anything from anyone. She's distributing Sukriti to these people. And I always remember that.
Well, I hope
It's been like 20 years or more that you've been doing that.
Yes, it's a nice service.
Like, Gurudev never liked it. That gives me some relief. 'Cause I went a few times with Lavanya Didi when I was like 17 or something like that. It's not an easy service.
Do you have to ask people directly, or do they just like, that's
You have to be very surrendered soul. But when I remember, even Gurudev didn't like doing that, and I feel a little relief, And Gurudev, he did it like for maybe like a year or 2 or 3 years, something in the beginning. But he said once he became like more mature and he was more established in the mat, then he began to look for other ways, so he started the pilgrimage, like a tour business. Yeah.
Bringing people also.
Yes. Yeah. Because they would design. It's actually one of these chapters. Gurudev talks about it, because they would design the tours so that they would accommodate people's desire to go to like popular places, more general places that Hindus like to go to. But in order to keep it in line with the Rupa Nuga conception, that was Srila Sridhar Maharaj's, stipulation. Then they would always include, places that were significant, for the in line with the conception of Sri Rupa and Saraswati Thakur, etc. So, yeah, it was a good way of bringing income and also bringing people to the mat and to the line. Yeah. Having a human body means we must maintain it nicely, but for what purpose? For the service of Guru, Vaishnava, and Krishna, only for seva. And if I can keep up this ideal, then no Maya can come and overpower me. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatan Goswami, Srila Srup Damodar Goswami, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, our Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Swami Maharaj, Prabhupada, all of them are preaching. And if I also try to preach to this world, then I shall be benefited. And somebody who hears that must also be benefited. This is the way of Krishna consciousness. Okay. I'm going to go on to chapter 11, Emotion or Devotion. Devotee, I want to know if it is okay to read the higher books by the Goswamis describing the intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Srila Govinda Maharaj. We are not doing that. In my 42 years with Srila Guru Maharaj, I never once heard him give permission for that to us. I know many of the books you are speaking of very well. That is, my position was somewhat different. Srila Guru Maharaj is a Paramahamsa Vaishnava, and I was his personal servant up until about 1983, when I engaged some others for his personal service. At that time, my seva responsibility increased in such a big way that I was unable to always serve Guru Maharaj in person. Still, I was always looking after his health. And I'll just, just add here, it's actually quite significant the way that Srila Gurudev answers this question, because, this devotee is asking this question, is it okay to read these higher books? And Gurudev saying no. But then before he goes into his explanation about that, he goes on this long tangent about how he was, he tells this long history about how that famous story, how Gurudev heard the medicine from Lord Shiva. You may have heard that story. Srila Sridhar Maharaj had this chronic headache that was very bad for years. And so Gurudev tells this, it goes on 1, 2, 3, almost 4 pages, just telling that, and then he goes back to giving his answer. But it's very significant, because it's like he's demonstrating, in order to read those higher books, you need to first have this type of service attitude, Like he's saying, I know something about those books because I was Srila Guru Maharaj's personal servant. And so, in his service, I would sometimes hear things from him. It wasn't like I decided I want to go and read these books, but in the course of being engaged in this exclusive service of my Guru Maharaj, who's an exalted Paramahamsa Vaishnava, then I came to know some things here and there. So it's like as if Gurudev's demonstrating, you need to have this particular type of service mood. And that's a starting point to be able to hear something, it's not you're coming with some idle curiosity, oh, can I read these books, it doesn't work like that, oh, this looks like cool stuff,
Or being I really want to know what they're actually talking about. Krishna Leela and Madhura and Rasa. Why can't I read that? How am I going to worship if I don't know what I'm really putting?
Well, that's what some of them say. But this is actually the real process, how transmission of Krishna consciousness takes place. There's one, Goswami Maharaj tells this occasion, and this, I always think of this as the perfect example of what the process is, how Gurudev was chanting. One day Gurudev recited the Chaitanyashtakam, these verses, 8 verses. There's actually 2 or 3 of them. Chaitanyashtakams, a composition of 8 verses by Rupa Goswami about Mahaprabhu. Very, very beautiful. I was thinking the other day we should read those verses. They're very beautiful. The refrain of every line is, how does it go? Siro pasya shrimandrita manuja kanai paryayitam sa chaitanya kimme punar pijashor syati padam. Something like that. But saying when it's this wonderful glorification of Mahaprabhu in 8 verses, and the last line of every verse is, when will that Sri Chaitanya come before my eyes again? This lamenting tone, mood of separation. When will that Sri Chaitanya come before my vision again? Like that. And so anyhow, one day Srila Gurudev, he was reciting this composition, and it's a difficult Sanskrit composition. like they're like long lines, not such an easy meter. So anyhow, Goswami Maharaj asked Srila Gurudev, when did you learn those verses? And Gurudev said, oh, I never learned them. And so Goswami Maharaj asked Gurudev, but I just heard you chanting all the verses from memory. So what do you mean you never learned them? And Gurudev said, oh, well, Guru Maharaj, every day when he was bathing, he used to recite all these verses. And I would be around him, assisting him in different ways. And so naturally, I just automatically learned those verses. So like that, I just see that as it's the perfect example of like how that transmission takes place. In the course of your service, there's some transmission that takes place from the heart of guru to disciple. It's not like there's a conscious, attempt, I'm going to learn this, I'm going to study this and understand this, but it's like a very natural, transaction that takes place. Like Gurudev mentioned how, Gurudev never studied English, Gurudev didn't finish his education, and he had mentioned something to Guru Maharaj, oh, I don't know English, in relation to the need to help the Western devotees. And Guru Maharaj told him, English will come to you. Actually, Krishna Kanta told me she had that experience with Gurudev. She didn't study English. That Gurudev told her, English will come to you, and it came to her, and now she speaks fluent English, but she never studied it. It came after she came to Gurudev, and she was doing translation, into Italian. She's Italian. There's a few, cool stories like that from our devotees. And Nitai Charan Prabhu also, who you met in Ekachakra from Mexico, little eccentric, very, very wonderful, very sweet devotee, brahmachari. And he never studied English. And he told me the way he learned English was through reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. Because they didn't have an English edition of they didn't have a Spanish edition of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he would read the English one, and somehow he learned English. He was reading the English one. It was some story like that. So anyhow, these are just a few examples how through that service connection, everything can come. There's a famous verse. I think it's in the Upanishads. Yasya deve parabhaktir. I always forget it. It's a bit of a tongue twister. Yasya deve parabhaktir. Tasyaite katita hyarta prakashante mahatmana. Part of it, saying that to that great soul who has deep faith in Guru, as they have faith in the Lord, all the imports of the scripture will be revealed to them. Everything will come to them, through that connection of service with Guru and the Lord. So yeah, it's very nice, the way that Srila Gurudev tells this. He, apparently he goes off on this long tangent about an example of practical service that he was engaged in, but actually it's very relevant to his answer. And Srila Gurudev, he was very brilliant actually in how because Gurudev didn't just give straight textbook answers. He would look in, I think it was Jagadananda who told me how, I think he was present and somebody asked Gurudev a question, but Gurudev knew that wasn't actually what they wanted to ask, and so he gave another answer like answering what their question really was, and it, like blew that person's mind. Like he would do things like that, like how did he know? That's what I really wanted to say, or like there was one time, I think Jagannanda also told me, there was someone who was engaged in some type of criminal activity, maybe to do with drugs or something, and they asked a question, and Gurudev didn't answer the question, but told him, it is necessary to follow the rules of society. He told him. And he would do all kinds of funny things like that. Or like if you'd ask a question that he didn't really think you were qualified to ask, then he might like kind of tease you in some way. Or like there was one time somebody told Gurudev, I want to hear about, can you tell us something about Radharani? And then he answered like pretending he didn't hear, like you want to hear about macaroni, or like he'd tell like some joke, like do you remember that? Or, he'd do things like that, like he would do very funny things like that. It was like, and sometimes very mystical. Like he would also like answer questions that people were thinking, but they were afraid to ask. I mean, I think we all had that experience. And Sriyukta Maharaj told me a very nice experience he had where he said he asked Srila Gurudev a question, and he said he felt like, I mean, this isn't, I'm not, I can't say this one way or the other, but this was Sriyukta Maharaj's humble feeling, that he felt he asked the question with some arrogance, like kind of to like show off to some other devotees, like, oh, I'm asking a big question, and some clever question. And he said Gurudev just looked at him and didn't say anything, which Gurudev could also do, or like Giri Maharaj told me, he asked Gurudev I think it was Giri Maharaj. He asked Gurudev a question once, and Gurudev just lifted up the newspaper. But anyway, Sriyukta Maharaj asked some big question, and Gurudev just looked at him, didn't say anything. And then Sriyukta Maharaj, he went deep into this mood of Jai Shishi Guru Gauranga Radha, in this deep introspective mood. Like, I just asked that because of my arrogance and feeling really bad, and so then he went later to Gurudev and said, oh, Gurudev, I'm so sorry, I asked you such a stupid question. And Gurudev said, no, it was not a stupid question, it was a very good question. And he said, I did not answer because you already know the answer. and then Sriyukta was just very surprised, I already know the answer? And then he started to think, and suddenly he said, not just one or two, but several, like different ways that the question could be answered. Just all started like flooding into his consciousness. Like, it was like very mystical. It just started at like all these different angles of how the question could be answered. It's like it was very, very, very wonderful the way. And my favorite, this is so brilliant, and we have this recorded. I published an article about it. It was in Italy. I've told this story a few times. Maybe some of you heard it, but and I really see this as like classic Gurudev too. How there were some persons from a particular institution who were asking all these questions about Jiva Tattva. People get really stuck on this issue. It was going on like 30 or 40 minutes, and Gurudev was like patiently answering, and then they're like going around in circles, and then Gurudev just kind of like segued. And Gurudev started like looking at some of the sannyasis, or like Giri Maharaj was there, and Janardhan Maharaj was there, and Sagar Maharaj was there, and they started to give some input. And then one of the sannyasis, he mentioned this example. He was speaking about the influence of Maya over the jiva. And he used the analogy of that Srila Sridhar Maharaj gives of intoxication. How Maya acts as like a force of intoxication, like clouding the judgment of the jiva. And so one of the sannyasis mentioned this. And then Gurudev took that and he completely shifted into a discussion about how devotees struggle with bad habits of intoxication, like in a literal sense. And then he started asking the sannyasis, like, how do you think devotees can become free from these habits? Like that. And so then they had this whole discussion about like devotees struggling with drugs and alcohol and these things, and different suggestions as to how they can become free from that. And then this struck a chord from somebody in the audience, and they piped up and said to Gurudev, you know, in the West it's like we're victims. You know, there's so much like pressure in the environment that, you know, that induces us, like and the material energy is so strong, and you know, how, like he said something like, what is the real medicine? Like, how can we really become free from you know, this heavy atmosphere that's pushing us in that direction? And actually, like Gurudev had already answered that question, because they just had this whole discussion. But it was kind of like it was like resonating with him. And so he was like asking Gurudev to elaborate on that. But actually Gurudev had said quite a bit already. And then Gurudev started to answer him, but he answered in this very particular way, like with some like dramatic entrance into his response. And he said, he started out saying, yes, I know the answer to this. I know what the medicine is, but I cannot say it. He said, who can I tell it to? You know, who will listen to me, and who can follow it? And he said, maybe I can tell who is my exclusive disciple, who like 100% wants to follow me. I can tell them, but I cannot like tell in a general meeting, like that. And then he said, but I know the answer, and Srimad Bhagavatam gave that answer, and Mahaprabhu, he gave that answer also, but I cannot say, you know, like in this way, and everyone's like, what's Gurudev talking about? And then he launched into this whole thing about, he quoted this verse that we were discussing the other day, Jnane prayasha mudapasya namante eva, this verse, which gives warning about the knowledge-seeking tendency. So what he actually was doing in this very clever, indirect way is he was going back to that first question and like slamming them. But because obviously he wasn't responding to this question about intoxication. He was going back and like giving his real answer, which he hadn't said because he was being polite, you know. He was going back to the first group who were asking about Jiva Tattva. And so then he went on about that, and it's very funny too. He was saying like, they want to know how many arms does Nrsingadev have. They want to know how many legs does Nrsingadev have. They want to know what Nrsingadev is having for breakfast. They want to know everything, but what benefit are they actually getting from that? And then he told about one incident. He met someone in Puri who insulted Gurudev's group, not Gurudev directly, but like maybe like what emphasis is made within our group of practitioners. And he was saying, this person told Gurudev, if somebody hasn't studied the Govinda Bhashya, which is a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra by Baladevi Jabhusham, this person said, if somebody has not studied this book, they cannot be considered a real sannyasi, something like that. Like if somebody hasn't studied this, then I don't take them seriously. And Gurudev said, told him, well, and Gurudev said, I didn't want to like fight with him, but he was abusing our sampradaya, he was abusing our gurus, so I had to respond. And he said, I read the Govinda Bhashya. How many arms do I have? You've read the Govinda Bhashya. How many arms do you have? What about your guru? He studied Govinda Bhashya. How many arms? Like, does everybody have 4 arms now, like Lord Vishnu? Like you studied it. What have you actually got from that? and then he was saying, Trinada pisu nichena, chorivasa yishnu, amanina manadena, kirtaniya sadahadi. Humility, tolerance, respect. How much have they studied this? How much do they know about that? This is the essential thing. If you need to cross a river, you just need to know how to swim. You don't need to know, the pH of the water and this and that and all these details. You just need to know how to swim. Oh, it was brilliant, so brilliant the way that he answered. But you see, Gurudev was always like, he didn't always just answer in a direct way,
He always, to me, it was always like circular. And then at the end it would all come together really nicely. You'd say, oh, he's gone somewhere, but no, it would always come around.
Right, like the way he's answering this devotee here too. It appears like he's going off, but actually it's all, it's all tightly, connected. You had to be like a little smart, like pay attention, like where's Gurudev going, what's he saying, and his answer there, there'd be different layers to what he's saying, and it's very, very brilliant. Okay, well, I think we better stop here. It's time for the arati. Jaya Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj. Jaya. Turn off, yeah.